I am unmuted. I swear I've done Zoom calls before. Welcome. All right. Now that I always have technical difficulties, always. So as everyone is coming in, welcome. I would love for you to put in the chat where you're from, what your role is, how many kiddos you have, their ages, since we are all, well, we did have 2 guys sign up, so we're not all moms, but that's okay. We'll try to get started by 5 after. We'll let people funnel in. I'm sure everybody's got lunch and other meetings and things like that, but thank you for joining us. All right, well, we are at 5 after, so I will get started. So for some housekeeping, this is being recorded. You will get the recording after the fact. I would love if everybody has cameras on. If you're eating lunch or you're doing something else, that is okay, but I would love to see everyone's faces and interactions. Please, throughout the workshop, use the chat, ask some questions, make some friends. I love bringing people together, and we all have a common bond. We're all leaders and moms, and if we could leave today with 1 or 2 new friends, I think that would be awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to come. I know we are all very busy coming from meetings. I'm sure you've gotten 5 emails since we started and Slacks and Teams messages. So I do appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And I would ask as much as you can to be present and really focus. And hopefully you'll learn and take something away from today. Now, again, I'm going to say again, I always have technical difficulties. So I'm going to hope that there we go. Hopefully things work today. So one thing that I hate, and you could let me know in the chat too, I hate if you go to a workshop or a webinar and they give you homework and you promise yourself you're going to do the homework and you know you're not. That PDF sits and collects digital dust for all of time. So my goal is that we're going to have some activities today. So when you leave, you will have some actionable things planned and already done. So by the end of this hour, you're going to have clarity on the hidden bottlenecks that are eating up your time at work so you can get out of survival mode and spend more time with family. You're also going to have a personalized roadmap of the critical systems that your business needs so that your team can operate like clockwork. This also goes back to the workbook. If you haven't downloaded the workbook, I can put that in the chat. And number 3, a mindset shift. So even if this seems impossible right now, I'm hoping that what you'll learn today will make this seem a little bit easier. And the agenda, I'm going to try really hard to stay on track with time, but we have a panel of 3 amazing moms and leaders who I will introduce very shortly. So we're going to have 3 different topics, and I'm going to try to keep that to 30 minutes. I would love to have a 10-minute Q&A at the end if you have thought of questions throughout, and then 5 minutes, hopefully, of closing. Oops, that was for a different workshop. My other Kim was at that one. Okay, let's see if we switch cameras. There we go. Okay. I named this session Productivity Reimagined for Moms Who Lead, because when we say productivity, I feel like different things come up for different people. And I did a little test. I went into YouTube and I literally just typed in productivity. And we get how to organize your desk, how to use your iPhone productively, keyboard shortcuts in Excel, how to organize my life, and other super vague topics about productivity. So me calling myself a productivity nerd, I just want to explain the lens that I see productivity through and is really my North Star for everything that I do. And that is really standardizing your processes and systemizing project management. I know a lot of us may say, well, I'm not a project manager, but anything that takes more than 2 steps is really a project. Doing your laundry is a project. Getting dinner ready is a project. There's different steps that have to happen in certain orders. So for me, and my soapbox is standardizing your processes and systemizing your project management to be productive. So hopefully that will help you reimagine what productivity could be to you. With that, I would love to introduce the panel. One thing I did want to mention also is that I wanted to make sure I selected a panel of I don't, diverse might not be the right word, but moms with kids of all different ages. When I was putting out feelers for this, people said, well, what about grandmas or anything, or young kids or older kids? So Kim's got older kids, Nicole and I have younger kids, and then Christy is a mom and a grandma. So wanted to include all different roles, ages of children to cover all bases. My name is Jacqui Mislinski. I love that I see some familiar faces here. I am a recovering perfectionist, process junkie, and productivity nerd, which is what I named my consulting company after. And I love to help business owners and leadership to create bulletproof processes, really, so that you can have more time and so your business and your team can run without you, and that if you do step away, things don't fall apart. I would also next love to introduce Christy Eccles. She is the owner and founder of Paragon Group. Christy, you want to tell everybody a little bit something about you?
Well, first, I do want to kind of put a disclaimer. I'm working in our home office in Arizona, so if you hear dogs, and it just happened that the pool cleaners came right when we started. Oh my goodness. So hopefully we won't have some distractions. My husband and I, we are founders of, as Jackie said, we call them the Paragon Group companies. At this point, over the last 13 years, we've grown to multiple companies. And I'll talk a little bit later about some of that in some of our topics. Born and raised actually in Oklahoma and then lived in Arkansas. For about 20 years, my husband and I moved to Las Vegas in 2005. We absolutely love it in Las Vegas. That is home to us now. We have three kids from 28, 24, and 16, and four grandbabies, four granddaughters. And so we travel a little bit back and forth between obviously Vegas. We have another office in Tucson, Arizona. So we split our time there, but then we also split our time to go see our grandbabies. That's become kind of our priority at this point in life. So, and this makes it even funner. They are 4, 3, 2, 1, and 7 months. So they're literally stair steps. So I'm not for sure the brothers apparently are decided, hey, let's just all have kids at the same time. So that's a little bit about us in a nutshell.
Thank you, Christy. So, Nicole, I'm going to introduce Nicole Swan next. Now, Nicole is a very good friend of mine. We went to college together. We played lacrosse together. And I have to give her a little bit of credit because she's probably one of the reasons I'm here right now. She convinced me to switch from a chemistry major to a business major. So I had more time to do fun stuff. So we go way back. Our kids have played together and pretty much grown up since they have been born. So Nicole is a senior director at PSENG, which is a utilities company in New Jersey. So Nicole, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit.
You. Jacqui, you're so funny. The real conversation we had, she said, what's your major? You seem like you have a lot more fun than
Yeah.
I do. And I will say I had a little bit of more free time now then, and now I feel like I have less. So all of the tools we're going to talk about today, like I know I'm going to take some things away, and I definitely picked some up along the way as well. So Nicole Swan Bennett, I am a senior director at PSENG. I've been in the energy industry for 17 years at various different roles at PSCNG. Love sports, love arts. And I have a 2.5-year-old boy. He is the best. I never understood what was going on with my friends with moms' lives, and now I do. And I just think it's amazing. And I thank all of you for the things you've taught me, if I know you, and the things that we'll learn today. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you, Nicole. And Kim Winter. Kim has older kids. Kim and I used to work together at a company I was at previous to being on my own. Kim is a project manager. She is fantastic with clients. She creates magic. Kim, thank you for being here on the panel as well.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Meet you all. Always time with Jacqui is amazing, but I have a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, and I was always super amazed by all of you who worked while your kids were little. So I left the workforce for about 12 years when the kids were little. I don't know how I would have managed it all. I felt like I couldn't manage my actual just life at home with the kids, also a military spouse. So we moved back and forth between the country. We moved 13 times in 20 some years. So it was a lot. But jumped back into work, absolutely loving it, working with clients. And yeah, just realizing how busy life really gets. But with the right tools, we can definitely handle it for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Kim. All right. So before we get into our first topic, I would love if you have completed the diagnostic in your workbook. Fantastic. If not, I'm going to put 90 seconds on the clock. I timed myself. I'm going to put it up on the screen also to complete it. If you would, you could print it out. You could fill it out on the PDF. So I'm going to put 90 seconds on the clock. Cool. So I will put some music back on and let everybody work on that. If any of the numbers on the bottom are not clear, if you're colorblind, I apologize. I did not think of that. You're going to total up your score. It was 1 to 5 on the PDF of the dark blue numbers, so 3, 6, 9. Going to total up your score on the red, so 2, 5, 8, and then total up your scores for the light blue, 4 and 7. Okay. That covers my promise one, is that you will have a clear understanding of your hidden bottlenecks, because whatever your highest number is, dark blue is decentralization, red is systems and processes, and light blue is tasks and project management. But to open up the panel discussion, I'm going to, let's see, add Christy to our spotlight. I'm going to add Nicole to our spotlight, and I'm going to add Kim. And Kim, I'm going to throw you the first question. And that is, well, the theme first is that, that aha moment when you realized, or that any of us realized, that there was a bottleneck. Because I feel like a lot of times we are all so busy and we are heads down in our work that we don't even realize that there are bottlenecks. So I would love to know, when did you have a light bulb moment? Ding, of, when you realized something needed to change in some part of your work.
For sure. So I definitely had a light bulb moment. This was supposed to be a fun weekend. We had friends that came to stay with us. And so the gals were going to go to New York City for the weekend and have a fun weekend. And one of the male spouses was going to stay with my spouse and the kids and just have a fun weekend and watch the kids at home. So they called me just relentlessly through the weekend. I don't know if anybody else feels like this. Same thing with work. Go on PTO, or you're out at a conference for a week and work just keeps calling you relentlessly. But I realized that I didn't set my spouse up for success because I was always trying to do everything myself, always take care of things. And it was just silly things like, we want to cook a frozen pizza. We don't know where the pizza pan is. Like, which my spouse will never live that down with his friend. He's like, dude, you don't know where your pizza pan is. But he didn't. It was like this crazy hidden horizontal drawer and like this wall of cabinets. He had never used the pizza pan. So then I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I don't need to be a perfectionist. I don't need to wear the badge of I can do it all. I'm going to do everybody's laundry, cook dinner, and still get to work on time and get that promotion. And yeah, so I need to set my team members up for success and delegate. But at the same time, and I learned this the next time I tried to go away, I can't just throw that knowledge to people all at once. Like, this has to be a gradual process, because if you try to dump everything on that person who's going to step in and manage your clients while you're on PTO the next week, it has to be a gradual process, and you have to kind of sprinkle that learning as you go instead of just putting it all on them at once. So
Absolutely.
I am the biggest bottleneck and not wanting to delegate.
Yeah, definitely. That I feel like the same thing with the kids, or my husband will call me from Target asking questions about the shopping list. I'm like, just make a decision. Like, you're right. Sometimes we enable people to rely on us too much. Christy, I know you and I have had this discussion recently. Has there been something in your business where you've been so heads down, whether as the owner of a company, that you've realized, like, damn, like this is something that I need to pull myself out of, and like realize that this is something that needs to change.
All of it. Jackie does have a front row seat at kind of what we're going through right now. We started our company 13 years ago. We just celebrated 13 years, and about 3.5 years ago, my husband came on board, and we added a utility division, so we're utility contractors. And I think from that point, we grew into 2 states in about a year and a half, and just shy of 100 employees. So when you go from 1.5 people um, to doing it all as, more like a consulting firm or having subcontractors to those types of things, all of those things are in your head. All of the task and building out the systems, and you're the IT department, you're the payroll department, and so I think for us just recently experiencing, I am the biggest bottleneck, and I'm finally admitting it because everyone has to come to me to ask the questions. Jackie would be so proud of me. Yesterday we had an IT issue with some of our devices, and of course I'm really about the only one that can troubleshoot some of those. And so I just sent in an email because I'm like, you know what, I know where this is going when I'm done with this. This is going, and so I'm not doing this anymore. So there's been a lot of these aha moments along the way, and just even understanding, head down, and before you realize it, and I don't want to jump too far ahead of, I think just our innate behavior is to kind of wear all the hats and do all the things, whether you do that in business. And so there's been a lot of those things. And I think that honestly, I think just getting to the point of whether it's vacation, whether it's, just if my husband and I want to, take a little bit of a walk or something like we tried to do yesterday, afternoon, you get those phone calls, and my husband's like, why did we even do this? Can't avoid, but sometimes those things, I love, Kim, what you said, when you set them up for success, making sure you have that information is so important. But sometimes we don't think about it until, and then so, good lesson learned going forward on some of the.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Christy and Kim, for those stories. And I feel like a lot of things, admitting is the first step to fixing a problem, or at least identifying that there is a problem. And I know that's hard for a lot of us to do, is to admit something, or to come clean and be honest with ourselves. But it's really the first step. So that was kind of theme one to the panel discussion, is that aha moment where we admitted, we identified that something really needs to change. So kind of transitioning to topic two, Nicole wanted to lead this, and Christy, Kim, feel free to jump in with other stories as Nicole talks about this. But for topic two is really fixing those bottlenecks. So whether your bottlenecks are, if you look at the diagnostic, everybody works in different ways, or we've got 17 different platforms where I could find a document, or I feel like every day I'm doing things a trained monkey can do. Whatever your bottleneck is, we identify it, then we find a way to fix it. So Nicole, I know you were excited. What is one process that you have implemented that has made a difference in your day-to-day to fix, some of the things that have been broken?
It's a good question. It's a really good question. And the productivity definition really helped too. I kind of think of it as it's an attempt to figure out how we can best use our energy, intellect, and time. And I think sometimes we try to do two of those things at once. And I don't believe in multitasking. Like, I don't think it's possible.
Oh, I'm terrible at it.
Yeah. I mean, most people say that because, it's different schools of thought, right? So I think one of the things that, or I'll say two things that I've done, I've moved up in the company I'm in, and I think one of the reasons why that is because I've been very responsive in getting things done. If somebody asks me something, I respond right away, right? But as you change roles, as you get into different types of roles, like, that's not going to be the thing that gets done. as quickly as it was before. Like I can't respond to emails in 2 seconds anymore, right? And so one of the things I had to do was, I want to be responsive, but within reason. So I put some guardrails in as far as like what needs to be done today and what could really wait. And so how, right? The first one is approvals. So expense sheets and things like that. I took a tip from one of my leaders, and I do all those things on Friday afternoons, right? And if something's urgent, like someone says to me, this expense I really need to approve today, I'll do it, but they have to tell me that. Otherwise, it's at the end of the week, because what was happening was it might take me 2 seconds to approve something, but it takes me out of what I was doing, right? So I was in the middle of, a meeting with someone on my team, or I was in the middle of working on a write-up for a leader, right? But I stopped and I went into the expense sheet and I said, well, wait a minute, that seems a little bit high. Let me see if, where did they go again? And then all of a sudden you're on this like 20-minute journey.
Down a rabbit hole.
Right? Or maybe it's simple, but you're kind of interested and, hey, this is a little easier than what I was doing. Let me just go do this, right? Because that's the reality. So that's one thing. And then the other piece is like, your team kind of has to go on that journey with you. So I communicated to them why, right? Because I'll be honest with you, when my leader told me they were doing this, I was like, man, how much time does it take you to approve something, right? Like just do it. It's someone's money, right? And then, explaining if you need something, I'll do it, but otherwise later. And then the other piece is, I one-on-ones with folks, having scheduled time so that they don't call you out of the blue. Like I talk to so many leaders that say, no, I talk to my people. I'll just call them when I need them. Well, that takes you out of whatever you're doing, takes that person out of whatever they're doing. And it sends a message that when I call you, you need to answer. So you're creating this culture of drop everything and do this. And then you get back to where you were sitting. So those are just like two quick examples that seems easy, but they are really hard to keep yourself diligent in doing. So
in that context switching is huge. Like you said, your head's down doing something and somebody grabs your attention and it's like, yeah, it's like playing dizzy bat. You got to come back to where you were, and it takes forever. And I like what you said too about just let me just call you. Let me just interrupt your time and work. I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but working from home too, where if anybody has kids home, not in daycare, or husband's working from home, my husband will just walk in and just start talking, or a colleague, it's the same thing, and he'll just start. I'm like, hey, excuse me. Like, do I need to put a light or a sign on my door? Like, I'm in the middle of something. So yeah, standardizing like office hours, or standardizing, like you said, doing your expense reports on Friday. I found time boxing has been huge. So people know you can interrupt me during these times because I've set that time aside for you to come in and bother me, and I won't be doing heads down work.
I was going to say, oh, sorry, Christy, go ahead.
I just want to piggyback on what she said, because it's you, and I'm still working on this, but you kind of train people. And so Nicole, kind of what you were talking about, when you put some of those things, hey, on this day, I'm going to do this day. And I don't just, it's not that we don't have an open door policy, but you're respecting that other person's time. But sometimes as a business owner, and from my husband and I, in our perspective, we try, my husband, like for his team that he leads, and same for our, my team, we have those designated times. But if one of us calls, our team knows it must be something that it's important and we need to take that. So it's not like, oh, it's just this random phone call, whenever, and there's a little bit of that dread on the other end. Oh my gosh, what is it going to be now? But it's also one of those things is giving them the respect of their time and vice versa. But when you do call, they know this is something that is important. I need to step away from whatever I'm doing to take that phone call. And it's not just that they're, again, that dread on the other end of the line. So you begin to kind of train yourself and your team working on that both ways. And that is huge, because it is same working from home. There's some days I will not go to the office in Vegas because I need to have head down quiet time, and I will stay at home because my daughter homeschools and she's perfect and never bugs us. But then have to go to the office, but I just know that when I go to the office, distractions are crazy. So, if the door, moving my computer screen way up ahead so that nobody can see my face in my office. Sometimes you have to, but I love all of the things that you guys have been talking about, because those leading teams and all the roles that we're playing, such share.
one thing to kind of add on that, I would love to ask all three of you is, so Nicole, that was a great I feel like I wouldn't have thought that as the first thing if somebody asked me that question. So I love, and that's what I love too about conversations like this is I know I think one way, but everybody thinks in other ways. And I love to get that perspective of different people. But could you think of, like, at least for me, the way I tackle this is, what thing, and for the audience too, this is page 3 of the workbook, is a process brainstorm. So what if Chrissy, Kim, and Nicole, maybe if you say, like, what is either the most common thing that you do, or what is the most frustrating thing that you do, or maybe the biggest thing that would have an impact on clients or your employees, like something like, standardizing a PTO request process or standardizing a client kickoff meeting. Kim and I have done 1,000 client kickoff meetings, and it took us a while to really hammer out the standard steps to make it easy. So every consultant led a kickoff in the same exact way. So would you guys be able to share something that either you did standardize, or that if you could tomorrow standardize a piece of the business that would make things so much easier for you and your team?
For me, it's similar to Nicole's tips, which were amazing, is just standardizing meetings and those times and those blocks. Just from an agile background, I can't imagine letting a project go for 2 weeks before we get together to talk about how it's going. Like 15 minutes, depending on the size of your team, if you could have a daily stand up, you don't need to run a Kanban board and, do all the other agile things, but just to have that quick check-in. And so everybody feels like, okay, cool, I'm still part of, this contributing to the organization. We're an all remote team. So you could constantly just spend your day in Slack and on email, just, checking into all those quick messages and whatever. But knowing that you have that already scheduled time just kind of gives you that platform so that you don't have to keep interrupting everybody throughout the day. But yeah, love knowing that we have a regularly scheduled check-in, and with clients, like, get it on the books before you close that current meeting, or else it's just going to keep being pushed away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing that, like, just a business example too, like a tactical, is in the space that I'm in, there are these large approvals that we need to get from cross-functional teams, right? And so we also have different folks that put these packages together. And so one of the things that we standardized was, what does the package look like, and when are we going to be presenting it? Because you're pulling in, like in this case, it's a lawyer, a rates person, a subject matter expert, somebody from the business, and like it's a pretty expensive call, I'll be honest. And so so we pull all these folks together, and what I was finding was that I was a little disappointed in the team, because everybody was coming, like, some people had screenshots, some just said everything, and so we put a standard template together, which the team worked on themselves, so that there's a little bit of empowerment there, but the team worked on themselves, and now it's scheduled for every other Wednesday at a certain time, and that kind of helps with, like, this is going to happen at this time, and that helps with those folks that are joining, because what was happening before was, oh, we're going to have one of these, it's scheduled for next Thursday, hope it works, and now it's like a set every other, and if we don't need it, we cancel it, but that's kind of helped both the cross-functional team members and the others stay on task. So just another example.
That is awesome. I hear so much from clients that cross-functional just mayhem. They have to hand it off to me, and I don't know what they're doing, and they didn't give me all the information. So now we've wasted time because I've got to go back to them and get it. And Kim and I have dealt with that with project management a lot, is, sales to project delivery team, and then project delivery team to customer success team. And yeah, that is a great point, Nicole. Thanks. So like I said, on page 3 of the workbook is a process brainstorm. So this will get you thinking, what is the most common process that you deal with? What is the most frustrating? And I'd love you to rank, and you don't have to put it in the chat, but if you want to, you could tell us, what is the first thing that you would standardize that's going to make your life easier? So again, there's a theme. The more we standardize, the more time we will have to spend on the business, with family, on vacations, really doing whatever you want to spend that time doing. So a little tie-in. since this is a free webinar, I get to do some shameless self plugs. So when I do work with clients, this is kind of the process that I take them through is identifying what's not working and then prioritizing those things. So if it's a cross-functional project kickoff, or I need to do my monthly accounting and I hate it and I'm always behind on it, which I am as myself, I will admit that, or standardizing handoffs from team to team to team, or a PTO request system, what is going to be the highest value process, whether it's highest value internally or highest value to our customers or clients, that if we standardize is going to make the biggest impact on the business. So then we go through, we prioritize all of those, and then we can start to actually standardize them. So first we have to identify, then we prioritize, because I love that Kim brought up Agile as well. I love taking an Agile approach because something that's a priority today may not be a priority in even 2 weeks or a month. So we prioritize constantly and continuously improve. So the third topic of the session is delegating. I feel like it is so hard. As moms, as women, we tend to take on everything. And I've seen that in the comments and talking about multitasking. I'm terrible at keeping an eye on the comments and talking and keeping everything flowing. So I am doing my best. But automating and delegating, it's so hard. Like you said, at home, and automating maybe not so much, but you're delegating things to our kids or our spouses, or Nicole and I have planned many snowboarding trips together, and Nicole used to take on all the work and it was a lot. And so she passed a lot to me because the two of us were ready for this. I should have brought this out. This was our theme for our snowboarding trips. We had the most complicated spreadsheet and it was amazing. And I know it was hard for her to let go of that, but I know.
I'm laughing because there are certain, just like, we had somebody that became the Dairy Queen, and they were in charge of all the eggs and the milk. And I mean, I don't know what we do this year. There'd be no eggs, but different roles.
but I'm so glad this came up because we planned it's probably a decade's worth of snowboard trips, and we made a process eventually for it, and it was very ad hoc and insane in the beginning, and Nicole did a lot of it, but then, like she said, she would give her sister stuff to do, and she would give me stuff to do, and we would plan bringing drinks and food and specific grocery store sections, and lunches and dinners, and who was going to make breakfast, and this is a very random tie-in, but something as big as planning a huge trip for 20 people to several states away for a 4-day snowboarding trip was huge. If you have no standard way to do it, it's hard to delegate. But I know Christy's got a good story for this. But when we're tying back to the theme, when we standardize, it is so much easier to hand things off. I'm going to use laundry as another example. We just had to buy a new washing machine because ours broke 3 days before Christmas, which was awesome. And I found out that this new washing machine had a built-in component for the detergent. I know this seems really random, but my 5.5 and 7-year-old, I told them, bring your laundry down and I'm going to show you what to do, because you don't have to take the 5-gallon thing and dump it in. Open it, put your stuff in, and push on. It's a mini process, but I could delegate laundry to them. And literally my 5-year-old drags his laundry down the stairs and goes into the laundry room, and he's so excited to do it, throws everything in, turns it on, turns the dial, and hits on. So it's a mini process, but it's standardized and they know what to expect. That's another huge thing I feel like, and chime in anyone, but I feel like if you know what to expect too, it's a lot easier. So tying back, automating, delegating, we take on too much. We try to do everything, even though we know if we delegate and automate, it's going to free up our time. So I know Christy wanted to lead off with this, but what is something that you've held on to for dear life for way too long? And what happened when you finally got that off your plate?
I'll kind of just kick this one off. I'm going to use just one recent example. I could sit here and literally talk about for the rest of the webinar just about this. First of all, my personality has always been, my parents had their own business and I grew up, I was only child until I was about 11, 10 and a half, and then had a younger brother and sister. But my parents married very young. I'll just kind of give you a little quick background. And so had me very young. And so we just kind of worked together, I guess would be a good way to state that. But when your parents have their own business, you kind of get expected to throw in and, you're gonna help as well. So a lot of control, perfectionism, not really trusting a lot of people if they made mistakes in doing things. So you kind of get to that point where, and then you become your own business, as the business owner, you're doing all the things. And that's what I was kind of sharing when we were talking about these topics. Automation is not hard because I am loving if we can automate something. I'm learning about that. It's the delegating part that is so hard. But recently, it's one of those things, and we are working. Jacqui's been amazing at getting us set up in some new task management ClickUp program that I've had forever, and didn't have the capabilities or the capacity, I guess, to learn it. But we had some new hires, and there's multiple steps in this new hire process. And I have delegated to promoted one of our staff to office manager to try to push some of those things off. It was as simple as not only just the task, but it'd be one of those things like, okay, send a message in Teams, hey, can you set this person up in Paychecks? But there was like multiple steps to the things. And one day the light bulb just went off as we're going through all these, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna put all these steps in ClickUp and go through all this process. And instantly when I did that and hit the send button on each of those tasks, and then my operations manager received those, I could just kind of feel the weight, because not only did I have to make sure that she, I gave her the task, but prior to that, I was always trying to remember, did she do it? Remember to check in. Did we get all the things in? So there was all of that, just me still, it was as if I never delegated it because I was still holding on to the action of all of that. And so that afternoon, it was, I want to say it was a Friday afternoon. I left that Friday afternoon from work just like, oh my gosh, what a huge aha, and knowing I have something in, and I could get right back in or check my email, get in ClickUp, and I could look to see that those tasks and things had been done. And so again, that was something that was huge for me in so many different areas. And that prompted like something where I'm not as controlling in some of those in situations where I would normally be. Sometimes, I might ask the team to do something and then it comes back wrong. And it's just easier sometimes to fix it ourselves. And again, that's something learning, okay, let's go back and, this is how I would do it, or, maybe give some steps in at first. It might take a little bit longer in those initial phases as you're delegating. But overall, I think that process of that, and not only that, it created a process and system for us going forward that was huge. So that's a simple example of something, but for me, it was just huge of delegating it and then just knowing that it was in there. I didn't have to worry about it anymore. And then just because my brain, I just can't remember things the way I used to. And so just remembering to make sure that she did the task. So it was just, all of these things. Sometimes we'll have, it might be 1 to 10 new employees starting at a time. And so trying to remember all of those things is so challenging. And so I love I'm getting to the point, I'm getting much better, because what it allows me to do, and is all of us in what we're talking about, and Jacqui, you said it from the beginning, delegating those things creates us the freedom to do whatever it is that we're wanting to do. And that was the main reason why I started our business 13 years ago, is because I wanted the freedom to be able to be with my kids at that point, to do the things. Now it's my grandkids and have that. And so the more we hold on to those things, and finding the less freedom that I have to do anything, with whether it's in our business or whether it's personal. And not that we can keep delegating to take on more work, but to learn to be a more efficient and team, so that we can continue to scale and do things the right way and the smart ways. So I've always loved productivity, but I've taken it's been a whole nother level now that I've been introduced to Jacqui and some of the programs and just her guidance. And she's even been sharing templates with me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a life. So I think I actually saw someone put it, sometimes, it's hard to ask for help. And that's something too, like it's totally okay to ask for help. And I'll share this and then I'm going to move on. We homeschool our, and I, for the longest, it just kind of came natural for me to kind of lead a little bit of overseeing her homeschooling. But to be honest with you, I hated school. I was not, my parents said we were, had their own business. I would go to the office much more on my way to school for my dad than I would, and I was always late to school. So I'm just honest and transparent. School was not a priority in our home. It was the business. And then I even started working my senior year for a company for about 11 years until we moved to Vegas. And so some of those things, so I just didn't care for school. And I'm just, I just didn't. My husband, on the other hand, now we
I
went
didn't
to a
like
private.
school either. It wasn't my thing.
Husband, on the other hand, was like, I don't know, salutatorian and had all these words and all these things, and he's brilliant. He's a genius. He's amazing. And my daughter, we just I lost track, not holding her accountable to some of the things. And so she got behind. And so my husband had to step in, and I told him, I said, you know what, honestly, I had like said I needed help, but I didn't really say, look, babe, I can't, this is just not my area of expertise. Please let me go to work. I You can hit that. And so it's amazing. Like she is like killed it the last, month that he has stepped in. But there was just recognizing that's something that he's strong at, and I will do anything else, but just don't make me do that one thing. So not only asking for help, but I think recognizing too, especially of us if we're moms and you have, your spouses, your family, like you said, teaching the kids the laundry, but I think also knowing everyone what your strengths are and playing into those. Because leading my daughter in homeschooling is just, I'll take care of all the bookkeeping and the record keeping and coordinating all of those things, but the day her accountable are just not for me. So
But you are an angel. I could not homeschool. We all have our gifts, and that is not one of mine.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Like I think it takes a lot of courage to recognize and say, I need some help, and Fawn put it in the chat. I appreciate that. It's really hard. I think we do try to do everything, but then when you actually see it, and this is broader, like your family's your team, and your team at work, right? So you have people there that have skills to add and make the whole team better, right? So if you're not allowing that to happen, like how much development, like how are you helping the rest of your team get better, right? And so that's like I try to think about things that way, but I do want to emphasize like it takes time. And one of the reasons why I haven't, some of the things I haven't delegated is because you have to build, like, I got to put something together that I can hand off. So you do need to carve out, and I put that in that same category as the administrative. Like I'm transitioning to a new role right now, and I've had to actually carve out specific time to like think about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm being pulled in 500 directions, and I'm not successful at it all the time. There's a lot of people on this call that I've called to talk about it. So I'm trying to carve out time to make sure that I can plan and think about the things that are going to get to the next level. Because if I don't do that, it's like whack-a-mole. Like I'm getting things done, but at the end of the day, you ever do so much and you're like, I don't feel like I did anything.
Yeah.
And like that's like the worst feeling for me, where you did so much, but you feel like you didn't accomplish anything. So like it takes time, it's worth the time, but you have to like be diligent. And Jacqui mentioned office hours. That's for other people. I think we all do a really good job at that. Like let me be available for everyone else. But you've got to be there for yourself too and carve that time to really think about how you can be better. And I think Christy, you did that with that really good example.
I was just going to say, so Christy, when you mentioned that it was so freeing to put things into your project management tool and then see that things were being done. I know one thing, Jacqui, we've said this over and over again.
Kim is a ClickUp expert also. I just want to throw that in there.
So I'm impressed that Paragon had the processes, so you could quickly put them into a tool that you could delegate and train your team on. So I think some of the challenges that teams that I work with, they don't really have processes. They haven't really thought about how do we make this more efficient? How do we save people time? They're just operating in chaos. And so that's just the first step, is to not operate in chaos. So I'm thrilled that you were all there already. You could easily put your processes into a tool. Usually there's a massive step before then, but.
Well, there's still, as a matter of fact, I have a to-do list here somewhere from our call yesterday, Jacqui. That was.
Yeah.
And a lot, I think, I came from a property management and corporate background before we moved to Vegas. It was more than 20 years ago. And I always tease because we had a form and a policy for everything. And I know that used to annoy so many people. And our company has now grown crazy over, the last couple of years. A lot of it, though, I have to say, a lot of it is in my head. or we transition from one system to another. And so getting it may that workflow may have been in one, but another. But I think we've all kind of echoed that today. And just and no matter what task you do, and I will even share this from I don't know if I'm the oldest one on the call, but when as a business owner, as a grandma, mom, a lot of other things in place. One of the things that my husband and I really had to have some of these hard conversations about too is just our life. So making sure our will's in place and making sure that all the different things, a lot of people don't talk about those type of systems and processes as you should. If something should happen, what would we do? And so we've even had to take a step back, and those are hard conversations that I didn't even want to have. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk about but we've had to do those. And just recently, my husband, we were talking, and I bought them there in our Vegas home. I haven't had a chance to, they came right before we left, but it's My Life in a Binder or something like that. But going through, I can't remember the name of the binder, very similar to kind of what Jacqui, we've been working on with our company, this for us personally. And just going through, because if something happened, there is so much of what I have handled for most of, my husband and I are married for more than 30 years. It's like, does anybody know where the checking account is and how many do we have? And, what insurance? I mean, that was something else. Like, we have multiple homes and properties, and it's like, it's like, for example, we had something happened and they made a repair and I didn't know about it. I'm like, oh, we had a home warranty that could have taken care of that. I'm like, oh, that would have been nice to know. Wait, tell them, because I handle all of that, but someone was trying to, so all areas of your life, I think, from business to family, and even thinking about, some of those conversations you don't want to live. We're not promised tomorrow. And so I think all around it is so important. And I think it's such peace of mind. I think that's the biggest thing. It's peace of mind. Because I still have one daughter that's a minor, for my husband and I to, what are those steps and what would she need to do or her brothers need to do, to help. So all of these productivity applies to every component of your life. So much. So I love to, Jacqui and I've talked about it, and it sounds probably as well, but I love, the grocery list that we're at the store, and we do Instacart a lot. We actually, and so all of us have Instacart and can go right into Smith's or wherever, put your grocery order in, and when we're ready, personally, then, Instacart it. But at least we all kind of have that same, that thought or process. Just don't.
My shopping list, is that going to focus? It's not, is in ClickUp, and my husband and I will add things, and then we could see them being checked off as bought, like in real time. And I will assign my husband tasks to do around the house, which he does not like, but
that's hilarious.
I assigned Tom, some of you know my husband, but Christy, I love that personal organizational system, because it really is. And where is the insurance? Or it's tax season now. Where do we have a shared Google Drive? Do we have a Manila folder? My husband and I are trying to plan a vacation and we need passports. And it's like, well, where's your birth certificate? Where's this? And it's like, we need to just have one place that everything is in that we know, or the insurance, or so that's a great personal productivity hack there. I love that. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. Does anybody in the audience have any questions for us four ladies? No questions. Alrighty. Then, as a very quick wrap up, in the chat, if you want to put in there, what is your biggest takeaway from today? Or did something give you an idea that you want to try? I want to leave one last unsolicited tip to piggyback off what everyone has just said, but I like to time block at least 1 hour a week for that thinking work, whether it's that list of non-urgent important stuff like strategies for your business or writing out processes, where I turn off all my notifications and at least 1 hour a week I dedicate to thinking type work. Because if I put it on my calendar, nobody can schedule. And that's at least how I make sure that I make a little bit of progress every week on those really important things. So you have probably noticed a theme throughout this hour that the problem isn't your people. The problem isn't that you've hired smart people. You are smart people. The problem is not your brain, even though my brain doesn't work all the time. The problem is the systems or the processes or the lack thereof. And if we can identify what they are, if we can prioritize how to improve them, we can start to make a plan to get better. And that is really the foundation of my core service, the Productivity Reboot. Again, I'm going to plug that really quickly. But in the Productivity Reboot, like Christy had mentioned, that I'm working with her on this now. And I just love when she comes to a meeting all excited, like she did this week. Oh my goodness, I wrote down instructions on how somebody needs to send an invoice, and they did it. And I was so excited. So I love hearing that excitement of she tried something and it worked, and off to the next thing. So in the Productivity Reboot, we identify really what's sucking up your time. We prioritize a plan on which ones to tackle in which order. And then we really get in and we write down steps on how to complete each process. Right now, it's a one-on-one consulting service. I am thinking about offering it as a cohort or something like that. If anybody would be interested in a group type session, let me know, and I could prioritize putting that together. But if you got the email that was previous to this with everyone's attendance today, you can schedule with me a 30-minute call to go over your workbook. If you have questions or you're not sure about things, I would love to help you dig a little bit deeper into that and give you a couple recommendations. Please, I am trying to be the least salesy person ever, so there is absolutely no obligation to having that call. I really want to help, and if you could walk away with one little thing that's going to help you to save time and be less stressed, that makes me happy. So that's what I would love to do for everyone. With the 2 minutes left, again, I really appreciate everybody coming and spending the time with us. I forgot to put the time in the beginning too. March 8th is International Women's Day, which is what inspired me to put this on. So it's a little bit early, but celebrating us, celebrating women, celebrating us moms, and helping each other to just get a little bit more done and not look back at the week, like Nicole said, and I was so damn busy, but what did I actually get done? So I hope you learned a little bit. Thank you, Christy, Nicole, and Kim, for taking your time to be panelists today.